My first trip to New York. Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I have an exciting story to share with you. My first trip to New York City. I hope my story helps you improve your English while enjoying the journey with me. My name is Ariel. I am 28 years old and I was born in a small town in the countryside. I come from a humble family of 5. My parents, my 2 younger siblings, and me. Growing up, I always heard stories about big cities, but I had never traveled far from home. My world was small, peaceful, and simple. But deep inside, I had a dream. One day, I wanted to see the famous city of New York. That dream finally came true when I received an invitation to attend an international conference in New York City. At first, I couldn't believe it. I had never traveled by airplane before, let alone to one of the busiest cities in the world. My family was excited for me, and my mother even cried when she hugged me goodbye at the airport. As I stepped into the airport, I felt nervous and excited. Everything was so big and busy. I saw people rushing with their suitcases, announcements echoing from the speakers, and airport staff directing passengers. After checking in and going through security, I finally boarded the plane. The moment the airplane took off, my heart raced. I looked out of the window and saw my town getting smaller and smaller. Soon I was above the clouds. It felt like magic. I saw the golden sunlight reflecting on the fluffy white clouds. It was breathtaking. During the flight, I observed everything. The air hostesses moved gracefully, serving meals and drinks. I was amazed by how the food was packed in small trays. I had chicken with rice, a small bread roll, and a cup of juice. It tasted good, but eating while flying felt strange. After a few hours, the pilot announced, "We are now approaching New York City." My heart started beating faster. I looked out of the window and saw thousands of lights shining below. It looked like a sea of stars. I knew I was about to step into a completely different world. The moment I stepped out of the airport, I felt an energy I had never experienced before. New York City was alive. The roads were filled with yellow taxis honking, people walking fast in every direction, and bright billboards lighting up the night. The air smelled of hot dogs and roasted nuts from street vendors. I got into a taxi, and as we drove through the city, I couldn't stop looking outside. The buildings were massive. I had seen skyscrapers in pictures, but seeing them in real life was unbelievable. I passed by Times Square, and it was even more dazzling than I imagined. Giant digital screens flashed advertisements, street performers entertained tourists, and the whole place looked like a scene from a movie. Exploring the streets of New York. The next morning, I decided to explore the city on foot. Walking in New York felt like being in a different world. The streets were a mix of different people. Businessmen in suits rushing to work, tourists taking photos, artists selling paintings, and musicians playing instruments on the sidewalks. I visited Central Park, a peaceful green space in the middle of the city. It was beautiful. People were jogging, kids were playing, and I even saw a man playing the saxophone. It was a perfect place to relax. Then, I went to the Statue of Liberty. Standing in front of it, I felt emotional. This statue was a symbol of hope and freedom for millions of people who had come to America to build a better life. I took a ferry to get close to it, and the view of Manhattan from the water was stunning. One of the highlights of my trip was visiting the Empire State Building. I went to the top, and from there, I saw the entire city. It was breathtaking. The cars looked like tiny ants, and the people below were barely visible. At that moment, I realized how small I was compared to this massive city. New York is famous for its food, and I wanted to try everything. I started with a classic New York-style pizza. The slice was huge, cheesy, and delicious. I also tried a hot dog from a street vendor, and it tasted just like in the movies. I couldn't leave without trying a New York cheesecake. It was creamy, sweet, and absolutely perfect. The city had flavors from all over the world: Chinese food, Italian pasta, Indian curries, and even food from my own country. It felt like the whole world was in one place. As I stepped into the Grand Theater, the golden chandeliers sparkled above me, and the red velvet seats made everything feel luxurious. The moment the curtains lifted and the performance began, I was completely mesmerized. The actors' voices filled the room with passion, the music vibrated through my chest, and the story unfolded with breathtaking intensity. It wasn't just a show, it was an experience that touched my soul. After the show, I wasn't ready to end the night just yet. I decided to take a quiet walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. The cool night breeze brushed against my face, carrying with it the distant hum of the city. Below me, the East River shimmered, reflecting the lights of Manhattan like 1,000 twinkling stars. I stopped in the middle of the bridge, taking in the unforgettable view of the city skyline. It was in that moment that I truly understood why New York was called the city that never sleeps. It was always awake, always moving, always filled with dreams. As I stood there, I thought about my own journey, from a small town to the beating heart of one of the most famous cities in the world. This was more than just a trip. It was a dream realized. Saying goodbye to New York. After days of adventure, exploration, and discovery, it was finally time to leave. As I packed my bags, I felt a mix of emotions, grateful for everything I had experienced, but also sad to say goodbye. On the way to the airport, I took one last look at the city. The familiar yellow taxis zipped by, the towering skyscrapers stood proudly, and the streets were still bustling with life. New York had left an imprint on my heart. As my plane took off, I gazed out of the window at the glittering city below. The lights slowly faded into the distance, but the memories I had made would stay with me forever. New York had changed me. It had opened my eyes to a world beyond my own, taught me that the world was huge, full of opportunities, and waiting to be explored. But most importantly, it showed me that dreams, no matter how big or impossible they may seem, can come true if you dare to chase them. Traveling is one of the most powerful ways to learn. When you step out of your comfort zone, you don't just see new places, you experience new cultures, meet different people, and hear new words. Every street, every conversation, every moment becomes a lesson in itself. Just like I improved my English listening and speaking skills by immersing myself in New York, you can improve your English too. Listen to stories, watch movies in English, and most importantly, never stop exploring, whether through travel or through learning. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your dream travel destination? Have you ever had a travel experience that changed your perspective? How do you practice your English while traveling or exploring new things? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, learning English is like a journey, and every step you take brings you closer to fluency. Blast off.